I just wanted to say a couple of words because I come from a family of veterans. My father's a Korean veteran, his brother's a Korean veteran. I lost 2 uncles in Korea. I have another uncle who was an airman, a decorated airman. I understand exactly what you're talking about. I understand that there's service to this country and we owe you a tremendous amount of debt. The problem we have, and this whole board feels very strongly about this, the problem we have is that we have people in our government who, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, are cowards. They take this and instead of giving the exemption nationwide by the federal government, they turn around and they dump it in the laps of the people who have to pay. Governor Cuomo is looking for re-election, and he's made this very clear that he did this. Well, this is nothing but another unfunded mandate. We take this very seriously. We have received a ton of comments from veterans as well as non-veterans, people who are struggling to keep their homes. We are taking this very seriously. That's why we have not made the decision to this point. We want to get as much information as possible. But I will promise you that this board will take every consideration in, and we will do everything we can to make sure we make the right choice. So I'll ask Mr. Clamser right now to come up and give a little presentation on the numbers so everybody's clear. This is on our website, but we can go through the numbers right now.
But just before we start, Ron, I just want to personally thank the veterans for coming out today and everything you have done for our freedom. And I stand up and I salute each and every one of you because you've touched the hearts not only of myself, but I'm sure of the rest of the community. And we wouldn't be here in the freedom we enjoy every day without men like you. So thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Ron Clamser. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Business here at Mahopac School District. First, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out. To the veterans, thank you for coming, and we appreciate your service. My purpose for this evening is basically to present some of the highlights of the law and the data that's associated with the Mahopac School District and what that effect is based on data that's been given to us by the Real Property Office as of today, or as of this year, rather. So first, I'd like to just point out some of the highlights, as you heard from the young man earlier who spoke about the law being passed maybe 20, 30 years ago. That's exactly true. The law was passed for municipalities, and many of the municipalities in the area here passed that law. At that time when the law was passed, school districts were specifically excluded from being able to provide this exemption. Just a little less than a year ago, in December 2013, Governor Cuomo wrote into the provision of the law to now allow school districts to pass that. In order for a school district to pass this exemption, they have to hold a public hearing. That's what this evening is all about. It's a public hearing in order for people of the public to voice their opinions and viewpoints in the law. In which case, then the board will be required to pass a resolution for it to become law within the school district, whereby then the exemption will become available for those who apply for it. It's important to note that the school district does not grant eligibility status. That status has to be applied for through either the town assessor or through the Real Property Office. I understand there's gentlemen here that could assist you with filing that paperwork. I'm sure the Real Property Office and the town assessor would be more than happy to assist with that. The town and the assessor, the Real Property Office, give us the data for those who meet eligibility. The school district does not determine who's eligible for the status. There are 3 types of eligibility. There's eligibility for somebody who served in a time of war. There's eligibility for somebody who served specifically in a combat zone, and then eligibility for those who were disabled veterans. Those exemptions are on the slide up on the screen, and each of these exemptions are cumulative, which means if you serve in the time of war, you get the first exemption. If you served in combat, then you get the additional exemption, and so on and so forth. If you're disabled, you get the additional exemption. These are based on percentages of assessment. As you can see, 15% of assessed value for a maximum of a $12,000 credit against assessment for time of war. Then you have a 10% of assessed value for an additional $8,000 maximum. And then for disabled veteran is a 50% for a maximum of $40,000. And this last slide here basically just shows the data that we received from the Real Property Office. These are based on veterans who, as of the point in time this data was presented, had actually applied for and received eligibility status, either with the municipal or the town or the village, so on and so forth. There is a section there for the town of Carmel, at least, where there are veterans that are eligible who have not applied. Obviously, veterans can move in and can move out. New veterans can come in, so these numbers are based on old data. If this data were applied to our current tax rate, the exemption status, the last column there you see on the right would show what the cost would be to a non-veteran. Basically, for the town of Carmel, it's roughly $16.35 per 100,000. For the town of Putnam Valley, it's $10.71. Basically, the reason why there's a difference between the two towns, the town of Putnam Valley is assessed at 100%, and the town of Carmel is assessed at 62%, and so that plays a factor into the difference in equalization. So this data that's on the slide above, that's the data that's been presented by the Real Property Office as of 2013, and if we use those numbers for today, that's what it would be like. And again, just for your reference, should you have questions about eligibility status, about filing paperwork, if you're currently eligible or on the list, these are the numbers you can call. There's an office there for the Putnam County Office of Real Property, or you can call your local town assessor in the town of Carmel or the town of Putnam Valley. And I appreciate your time. Thank you all for coming out.
So again, what we will do is we will leave the comment box in the district office, as well as allow people to continue to email us. We will meet in November, and we will vote on this exemption at the November meeting. And we will, again, take everything into consideration, all the letters and emails that we've received, as well as some of the personal comments we've gotten from veterans and non-veterans. So I thank you all. Yes, sir. Sure.
It says town of Carmel is 298 veterans. Does that mean my son?
Sure.
It said town of Carmel, 298 veterans. Is that 298 veterans who live in the town of Carmel but reside in the Mahopac School District?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct. The data that you see here is specific to the Mahopac School District. So when you see town of Carmel, it's not considering the people who are living in Carmel as well as Mahopac, because Mahopac is part of Carmel. They just list it that way. So the numbers you see here are specific to our school district and specific to the people who live in our school district. As you know, we have some people that live in Putt Valley that are part of the Mahopac School District, as well as people that live in Carmel. So right now, we're looking at the numbers that are considered here are also considering the 206 that are eligible that have not filed. So that number, the 1635 and the 1061, is taking into effect that those 206 individuals will apply for that exemption. Yes, sir. Sure, absolutely.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Schneider. I'm a resident of Mahopac. I was born and raised here, graduated Mahopac High School in 1996, served with the United States Marine Corps from 97 through 2005, and thank you for having the hearing. The question that I had in regards to the presentation was, when it was presented, he said that the discrepancy in the numbers was in regards to the town of Carmel's property valuation being at approximately, I think it's 62 is the valuation rate that we're given from the state right now, and Putnam Valley's at 100%. The town of Carmel, it has already begun the wheels of motion for a full town-wide reassessment, which is going to bring that number up to 100. In turn, does that bring that number down to $10.61? And then if so, if the 206 that are eligible who have never claimed their exemptions before now come out of the woodworks and do it. If all of them don't come out, we're then below $10. And I'm just asking again, this is all in theory based on the theoretical numbers that you guys are presenting. In my opinion, it doesn't even come down to the numbers. The question is, do we do everything we can to help veterans that we've been given the law to do? Do we do nothing to help the veterans, or do we do something in the middle? The numbers, I think, at this point, if they're just estimated, if we're having a townwide reassessment, which I know we are, we're already 75% funded without even going to any bonding on it. We're there. The wheels of motion have already started. Now we're looking at numbers that are actually 60% higher than what they would really affect our town's residents with. So if that's the case, I'd hate to see misinformation be put out there. And I asked this question a year ago to the at the time then sitting president of the board. And I, again, had talked about this. They brought up reassessment, and the numbers were off. I asked a lot of questions, and they said they weren't really sure. So I'm not even sure if the estimates are accurate, because, again, if we're looking at a reassessment, we're now 60% lower than what you're looking at to make a judgment on. The question, again, comes down to, are we going to do everything we can? Are we going to do nothing? Are we going to do something in the middle? And correct me if I'm wrong, but if the town's doing the reassessment, does that bring those numbers to what I had said it would reflect more realistically?
I mean, we got this from the town, Ron. I don't know.
Okay, so he gave me a warning. He said, I'm going to ask this question. I guess the best way that I can answer that question is that mathematically, yes, that would be the case. What I would like to avoid doing is making any sort of commitment to what the town will or will not do during the reassess process. But yes, mathematically speaking, if the reassessment and all other things were equal, then that would drive that number down. However, since it's an assumption, the numbers based on current valuation, these are the correct estimates based on that. And what this young man here says is correct. That a reassessment would change the numbers that you see on the screen.
But, Ron, when it's reassessed, won't it come out to be the same amount?
Yeah, it's the same
Okay,
numbers.
because instead of paying it on 62% of evaluation, we would be paying it on 100%. So,
That's correct.
If I were paying, $80 for this, okay, and, my properties were reassessed, I should be paying somewhere in the close vicinity to the same taxes, okay, and the same $80.
That's correct. And the reason for my hesitation is
I know the reason.
during the reassessed value, if it was only changing the equalization rate, all things would be similar. But if homes themselves become reassessed for different values and the valuation or equalization rate changes, then there's several more variables that will change into the distribution. Which is why I'm hesitant to commit to the assessed value.
Thank you, Mrs. Snyder, for bringing up that point, because I want to ask you another question. We have 206 eligible veterans who haven't put in for any type of exemption. Are they considered disabled veterans? Is that how they consider them into the cost per 100,000, or are they just considered basic? Because if they're all 206 are considered disabled, well, that's going to bring that cost per 100,000 up. But if it turns out they're only basic veterans, well, that should drive that cost down. So that figure there probably isn't that accurate. I mean, it's a figure.
The 206 that are eligible are included in the calculation.
Right, but are they included as disabled, combat zone, or basic?
No, they're included at the basic rate.
At the basic rate?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So the effort here is to try to give the benefit of the doubt. If you look at the numbers versus the basic, combat zone, and disabled, to put them all as disabled would be overstating. Yes, sir.
And just to clarify on the disabled, it's 50% of whatever their service-connected disability is. So they're not going to necessarily get 50% off of their evaluation,
Correct.
For instance, I'm only 10% service-connected disability, so the add-on to mine is only an additional 5%.
Correct.
So just because it's a disabled, service-connected disabled veteran, doesn't mean they're going to get.
Yeah, this is not a foolproof number. This is an estimate based on the numbers that we know, and the numbers we know are the number of basic, combat, disabled, and eligible.
And I'm sure that you were all aware of that. I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah,
the
thank you.
non-veteran public knows that.
Right.
And just because you're a veteran and disabled doesn't mean that you're a service-connected disabled veteran, which is what that exemption applies to.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Just to follow up quickly on his last sentence. I'm a service-connected disability veteran, disabled American veterans. I'm the commander of the local chapter. There are veterans who are out there who don't fall under this category, but they might have been disabled. An air conditioner might have fell on their head.
Right.
He's a veteran, he's disabled, but he does not qualify under this statute.
Agreed.
That's just to clear up a little on
that's
Art's
why-
last sentence.
That's why those numbers were kept at the basic level, because we didn't know, nobody knows what level of disability, if they are applied to combat disability, military disability, if it was after they.
And that disability rating comes from the Veterans Administration itself.
Correct.
They have to authorize it.
That's correct.
I just wanted to say one other thing. A reading of the legislation indicated that there was possibly 17 different levels that you might consider applying to the veterans.
Right.
Can you discuss the levels a little bit so we're a little more knowledgeable on that?
I don't know, Ron? Could you discuss, the levels, the various levels, the disability levels, and as they pertain to the numbers we have here?
Yes, I can discuss them on a very limited basis, only because the data that I have on the slide, that was reported by the real property office, basically in that very simple format. So if there was if there were different levels of disability, like you had mentioned, maybe 10% or 30, whatever the current veterans are currently eligible with in the county records, that calculated to the numbers that are on the screen. Because you've already applied and the county knows your status. What that breakdown is by individual, that data I do not have, and I would imagine that the county would not have given that out
Right.
to us. They basically have all of that behind the scenes, and the result is the number that they gave me. Then I use that number to calculate the tax rate savings.
Right.
Maybe I should just
Ask
stand
a
here.
question on this. The reassessment, Mr. Schneider, you're on the board. Are you on the board still, I believe?
I was the one who did the whole,
Yeah, so you,
many questions.
okay. Okay, so when, I know it's going to happen, it's happening now, when will it be completed? Because I think the taxpayers would like to know, and maybe that could help us, since you were kind of a part of that process.
The townwide reassessment process is a very long process. It takes approximately 3 years from the time that the town board made the initiative to have an open hearing similar to this, to hear what the residents felt, and then in order to get completion. So we began that approximately a year ago. Our timeline that we're looking for is for this to be on the beginning of the 2017 tax bill. So we're still a couple of years away from that being effective. Right now, you might be even receiving mailers. We had our last public hearing, but we have outside contractor that's now got vendors that are going around and they are doing assessments. We're trying to, people will actually come and knock on your door and ask if they can come in because they need to do this in order to get the full assessment. You are allowed to say no. We have requested that they make multiple attempts, but you are by every right allowed to say no. I won't even tell you what I instructed my wife to say, but you're allowed to say no. So you can do that, but keep in mind, that means that anything that is on your assessor's card is going to actually be taken into account. So if you have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, but you're paying tax on a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you're going to keep paying tax on that 3-bedroom, 2-bath because you didn't let anyone in your house. The entire purpose of the reassessment is, just as this gentleman said, it is a revenue neutral. It's a revenue neutral item. The only purpose is to make it fair. It hasn't been done since 1996, which is when the county initiated it last. We, as the town of Carmel, and I believe Phillipstown, are the only two in Putnam County that are not at 100%. So it's been a big initiative of the present board to get to that 100%, which is why we're here. It's already begun. We've already got contracts signed. We already have our vendor in the town hall. It's already happening. Mailers are going out. Informational meetings are happening. Expect it on January, right around, you'll be getting many more public hearings, but right around that first tax bill of 2017 is when you're going to see it effective. The big question is, oh, everybody's going to pay more money. No, that's not the case at all. As it was said before, it's revenue neutral. It's not going to make $1 more. So it's not actually costing the district anymore. It's not increasing the budget. What it is it's costing the majority of the taxpayers who reside in the district more money because they'll have to pick it up. But in regards to the numbers, I wanted to clarify because up until I just asked this gentleman for clarification, I was under the assumption that a veteran under this, if we were to say, okay, 100% veterans deserve everything, if you came home and you were unfortunately wounded so severely that you're 100% disabled, the maximum that you're going to get a reduction on is $60,000 of your assessed value. Average house in the town of Carmel right now is approximately, keep numbers easy, $300,000. At $300,000, the maximum reduction someone who came home 100% disabled is going to get is 20% reduction in their school tax bill. It is not a 75% reduction. It will be a 25% reduction on the $300,000 assessed house, given a full grant by what the state is allowing. So I also hope that everybody gets all that information, because up until now, I didn't know that. But just to answer your question, I'm sorry I stole a little bit extra time. It's going to be right around 2017.
And if you could spare the veterans any of this during this reassessment, help the veterans out, right? Tell them, leave them alone.
Again, it's all about being fair. We don't look at the gender, we don't look at the race, we don't look at the ethnicity. It's 100% illegal to do that. That would be like very, very bad for the town. We'd probably lose the town. We'd go bankrupt. It would be really bad for everybody who lives here. So we're not going to do that. But we will do everything that we can, as I said, to make it fair, which is what a reassessment is for, and that's what the entire project is about.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Well, you've got a little bit of a taste of what we've been going through the last couple of months, trying to figure out exactly what this is. As usual, we get information from Albany. They don't give us any information. We're sent to figure it out ourselves. This is the best we've been able to come up with so far. We believe it to be as accurate as it could possibly be at this point in time. So that's what we're going to make our decisions on, as well as the feedback from the community. Okay? So I thank everybody for coming tonight. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and we're going to go into our normal school board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.